Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. So glad to be here with you today. My name is Luke Davidson. I'm the campus pastor with our North Richland Hills campus. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to all of you attending online with us this morning as well. We're continuing a series called I Love the 90s, which I really do love the 90s. I even love the music, which is sort of polarizing. Some people don't like the music of the 90s. But do we have any fans here of like Pearl Jam? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah. You guys liked it a lot more than the 8:30 service. Not many Pearl Jam fans in that service. Alanis Morissette at all? Yeah. Dave Matthews Band? Yeah. Death Row Records? Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. I listen to way more of that than my mom would care to know. But I will tell you, my favorite band from the 90s, sorry if this ruins your opinion of me, was Rage Against the Machine. That was my favorite. Not sure what to think about that, are you? Does he want to burn a building? I don't know. No, I don't. But love the 90s. I was a kid, the cell phones were coming out. We didn't really have cell phones yet, the kids. We weren't texting each other. But the cool kids had pagers. Did you have a pager? Of course, the cool kid had the pager. None of us could call him because we didn't have a phone, but he had the pager. 90s are when Skechers were invented. They were ugly then. They're ugly now. It says not much changes sometimes. But in this series, we're talking about where we've come from, what makes us who we are. And we're also thinking about as a church, where we've come from, what makes us who we are, what guides us and directs where we're going into the future. I don't know if you knew this, but Compass Christian Church is over 50 years old. Started about 10 minutes south of here as Bedford Christian Church over 50 years ago. Our mission is navigating people to God. And so we have core values that sort of follow the directions of a compass, which kind of goes along with our name, Compass Christian Church. The north is navigate, tell others about Jesus. The east is engage, connect with people. The south is serve everyone everywhere. The west is worship. We want to grow in our faith. If we do these things, we feel like we as a church are navigating people to God well, and that you and I, if we do these things, we are following Jesus well. Today, I want to talk about the south side of the compass, serve. Everyone, everywhere. I wonder what you think of in the context of church when you hear the word serve. And I think it's something that we all want to do. Maybe you think of going on a mission trip or building a structure or getting your hands dirty, working with tools, feeding the homeless. Those are great things. Also though, do you think of, in the context of a church serving, do you think of your home? Do you think of your neighbors, your schools? You should. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about today. Home Improvement is the name of this sermon, which was one of the most popular shows from the 90s with Tim the Toolman Taylor. Tim, what was so funny is that he was so accident prone. And you remember the show, he's always shooting people with nail guns and electrocuting himself and falling off of roofs and just again and again and again, accident prone, which was funny as a kid for me. Now that I'm adult, it's sort of painful because I've been in these moments now with my own house. Not too long ago, I had a loose sink and I just was gonna tighten it up and this gasket blew. I don't know what happened. I had this scalding hot geyser just spraying all over the kitchen, soaking everything. I tried to cover it up with my hand like that's gonna do anything. It's just burning my hand. My wife ran in with a towel. I'm like, what are we thinking? I finally had the mind, because I was just panicked, closed the shutoff valve. Everything soaked. Not my finest moment. Can I just say that? And my sweet wife didn't say this, but I know she was thinking, maybe you should just stick to preaching. It'd be good for you. Maybe you feel that way sometimes when it comes to serving. Like, you're supposed to and we want to and Jesus tells us to and it feels good to serve, but we don't know where to serve. Where would I even do that? And life's so busy, where would I have the time? And I don't know how. Who do I serve and how? And then there's like the real legitimate issue of like, well, if I just jump in and just serve, I could actually make things worse. Yeah. Could break, something could explode. You could destroy something. That happens sometimes. But that's why we as a church have strategies for serving. We have things that I want you to get connected to in the coming weeks and months. If you will go to our website, mycompasschurch.com, and click on Next Steps, you need to go to Discover Compass or Serve Tour, or you need to get into Rooted, or you need to consider getting into Compass Academy. These are next steps that you must take in order to start to live out your purpose and to really be trained in your unique gifting. Because if you will come alongside of us in these ways, we will come alongside of you and train you in your unique purpose and gifting. You may not believe this or know this, but every single one of you has a unique gift and purpose from God. Only you have it. There's a children's book one of my kids was reading, and I just thought this was so powerful. It said this: no matter how big or small, there is a difference only you can make. So true. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10 says, God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. The guy who wrote this is named Peter. Peter had been a fisherman. He had cleaned nets. He had handled smelly fish. He'd gotten his hands dirty. One day, Jesus came along and Jesus said, follow me. Translation, be my disciple, be an apostle. Peter's like, heck yeah, I'm gonna be a big shot in Jesus' kingdom. He's about to take over the whole world. That's how they saw it, political kingdom. This is gonna be the renewal of everything. He's gonna be the king of the world. I'm gonna be one of his top guys. No more filleting fish. No more cleaning nets and getting my hands dirty. We'll pay other people to do that stuff because I'm gonna be big, I'm gonna be important. Well, Peter learned the hard way that following Jesus actually meant serving and sacrificing more than he ever had before. In fact, you fast forward a couple years, the night before Jesus was crucified, the night before Jesus was executed, which is that picture of Jesus hanging on a cross. The night before that happened, at a dinner with his disciples, Jesus got down on his knees to wash their feet, which seems weird to us. It was absolutely offensive to them because that would be totally humiliating to have somebody who you esteemed and somebody who you respected wash your own feet. You say, no. You shouldn't do that for me. In fact, Peter, I'm guaranteeing, as bold and as aggressive as he is coming at Jesus, and actually in the scripture, he rebukes Jesus and says, stop this, what are you doing? Get up, you're the Son of God. I'm not a fisherman anymore. I don't clean nets. I don't handle smelly fish. You're the Son of God. We've got other people to do this stuff. Because back then they wore sandals and they walked through the streets. Their feet got dirty and they didn't have plumbing. So there's some other stuff floating in the streets sometimes. And you would have people beneath you, servants, who would wash your feet, not the king. So Peter says, get up, what are you doing? And Jesus looks at him and firmly says this. He says, I tell you the truth, unless I wash you, you won't belong to me. How many of you, your mom said this to you when you were little? I remember some moments in the 90s I had like snot just draining. Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me. Jesus says that very firmly to Peter. It's a tense moment. And Peter sort of backs up and says, okay, whatever, have at it. And the Son of God knelt down, washed his smelly feet. Guarantee you Peter's contemplating, why is he doing this? I'll tell you why. Jesus was teaching his disciples. He was teaching Peter. He's teaching you. He's teaching me that his kingdom is not about being served. It's about serving others, finding out what they need, meeting their needs. How can I help them? How can I help them? How can I help them? That becomes the mantra of a follower of Jesus. It's a moment that Peter never forgot. Peter had a protege, an apprentice named Mark, who saw a lot of the stuff that Jesus did when he was little, other stuff he heard about from Peter that he didn't see, but he wrote it all down in a book we call Mark. And in chapter 10, he quotes some really powerful things that Jesus said about how we orient ourselves in a posture of service to others. Look at what Jesus said here. He said, you know, rulers in this world, they lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those that are underneath of them. I think we all know the type. You might be the type, or you know the type that just kind of flaunts your authority or your badge or your prestige or your position or your promotion. You just flaunt it over people and you lord it over them. Yeah, I'm not getting the coffee, that's for the intern to do. Or, you know, really women cook and clean, their place is in the kitchen. I'm a man, I don't do that stuff. It's the kind of person who lords their power, popularity, position, status over other people. But among you, it will be different, Jesus says. We don't lord our authority over people. We don't flaunt it and belittle people and think that serving is beneath us. We don't do that. Instead, he goes on and says, listen, whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. You want to lead? You got to serve. And whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. We live in a me-first society, and Jesus is saying, listen, you live in a world that says, me. What do I want? What do I need? What do I need? What do I want? Jesus flips it and says, forget that, others first. What do they need? What do they want? How can I help them? How can I fulfill their needs? That becomes the motto of your life and your heart. And that's what really radically transforms and renews the world around us. And then Jesus says these powerful words. He says, for even the Son of Man, which is how he referred to himself, came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Peter did not forget these words. I think it's why he wrote things like this in his letter, 1 Peter chapter 4. He said, serve one another. Do you have the gift of speaking? Then speak as though God himself were speaking through you. Speaking as if God's words were your words. And how would God's words build other people up and help them and serve their needs? Do you have the gift of helping others? The word helping there has the idea of waiting tables in Greek. Any of you ever waited? Waitress or a waiter? It's hard. I waited for a summer in college. It wore me out. I was exhausted. I have a new respect for anybody in that industry because your sole purpose is to get other people. What do you need? 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 Run to this table. What do you need? 10 top. What do you need? What do you need? He says that's a gift to be able to do that well, to meet other people's needs. I don't know what you think of when you think of spiritual gifts. Do you think of miracles, healings, prophecy? But the gift that he singles out here and the gift that his buddy Paul says surpasses all other heavenly gifts is loving other people, serving them, helping them, and meeting their needs. He says that's a gift, getting your hands dirty to meet the needs of other people, which is so true, isn't it? There's no better feeling, there's nothing more fulfilling than when you help somebody out that really needed it. There's an entire episode of the 90s show Friends about this very scenario. Like helping others and selfless service, that you try to serve someone selflessly, but it feels so good, it actually felt like you benefited from it. It felt like a gift. Maybe that's the gift of God, that you feel good, they feel good. The whole situation's better because you helped someone else. You should try it more. It's a gift of God to meet other people's needs. Because if you do that, then everything you do will bring glory to God through Jesus Christ. All glory and power to him forever and ever. Amen. Jesus once told this incredible story that we call the Good Samaritan. If you don't know the story, there was this guy traveling on a journey along a road. He's attacked, beaten up, left for dead on the side of the road. On two separate occasions, two characters come along who were very popular, honored in their society, heroes of the community. These were people like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the first one. He's very likable, he's funny, he's got a lot of contacts, a big network. He knows people that could help you. Plus he's got a past, he came from a rough background, so he can empathize with your situation, beaten up on the side of the road. The second person that comes along is like Topanga from Boy Meets World. Who here had a crush on Topanga? You're lying, there's way more of you. Topanga's beautiful, she's caring, she's got a deep heart. Of course, she's gonna stop and help, right? But in Jesus' story, these first two characters, even though they see the person beaten up, dying on the side of the road, they don't stop and help. Why? I don't know, Jesus doesn't tell us. Why did I not stop when somebody needed my help? Why did you not stop when, were you busy? Did you have more important stuff to do? I don't know, Jesus doesn't tell us, but they didn't stop, which makes them the villains in the story. Even though they're perceived honorable people in their community, villain in Jesus' story because they didn't stop and help anybody. But then a third person comes along that Jesus calls a Samaritan. What's a Samaritan? Well, all you need to know is that in Jewish storytelling, a Samaritan was the bad guy, the villain. It's the person that you can't stand. Like they just totally get on your nerves and under your skin. They just annoy you the moment that you see them, especially the moment that you hear them. Kill me now. Oh no, it's Janice from Friends. Are you kidding me? I hate Janice. Not Janice. Like I've been beaten up and left on the side of the road for dead, and now Janice is gonna talk me to death. It just got worse and worse. I can't believe this is horrible. Janice is here. Except in Jesus' story, this third character doesn't talk you to death or annoy you. Instead, they see you and they stop and they help you. And they bandage up your wounds and they save your life and they serve you and they take you to a shelter, pay your bills, and even check back on you in a few days to make sure you're okay. That's the idea of the Good Samaritan story. The first two characters are not the heroes. Why? Because they didn't serve. Why is the third person the hero? Because they served like Jesus. It's as simple as that. Let me tell you what makes you a hero in God's story. Let me tell you what makes you a hero in God's eyes is when you see somebody in need and you serve them. And you take their need and make it a higher priority than what you wanted yourself. This starts in our homes, though. Husbands, serve your wives. Load the dishwasher. You can do it. Run the vacuum. Fold the clothes. Guarantee you she will think that is way more attractive than your Anchorman Panther cologne. Guaranteed. Every time. Serve your wives. Wives, serve your husbands. Kids, serve your parents. Clean your room. Make your bed. Put your toys away. Clean your own dang toilet. No, nobody want to clean your toilet. You clean your toilet, serve your family. Parents, serve your kids. Serve your elderly parent that lives with you because they cleaned your toilet for a long time. So now you serve them. Or if you don't have a family member that lives with you, you serve your roommate. Or you serve the people that live in the houses around you. But this has to start in your home, on your cul-de-sac, in your building, in your apartment complex. That you are finding those that are closest to you and you live wondering how you can meet their needs. How can I help them? What do they need? What do they need? Because when you do that for them, then they do that for you, and then all the needs are met of the community. It is totally incredible how that works out. So serve in your home, serve in your community. Pay attention to your neighborhood, to your schools, to what's going on in your city, and serve at the church. Our church is growing, and we have an outreach that you will meet and serve people here that you otherwise wouldn't run into in your daily life. So serve here and meet some people and serve God by serving them. Now, unfortunately, there are occasions where people neglect their home, rush past their community in order to go get to the church. Sounds a lot like the Good Samaritan story. To which I would say, how about serving your church by serving your community and serving your home? When you do that well, it transforms the world. It sounds too good to be true. It sounds too simple. I'm telling you what, Jesus changed the world by teaching you to love your neighbor as yourself. If you do that, there is nothing in this world that will stop the power of that transformation. I've been to some of the most desperate parts of the world, in my opinion, extremely impoverished and poor, or situations, conditions that are totally unbearable. And you think, oh, money would fix it if we could just get money to them, or politics. It's not always the case. But I'll tell you the solution that I see every time is when I get there and I see these little communities of Christians that are putting others' needs before themselves, and they start caring for one another. And you're like, how are they able to do this? They have nothing, and yet they're meeting the needs of their entire community. I say that is the hope of the world. The greatest example I can think of this historically was from the Roman Empire. Back in the year 169 AD, soldiers returned from fighting, and when they came back, they brought a disease like smallpox with them, and it hit the population. The plague ultimately killed a third of the Roman Empire's population. Can you imagine if a third of America's population died from a disease? Totally devastating. So what do you do when a disaster like this hits? I'll tell you what most people did. They ran. They got out of the cities and tried to run away from the disease as fast as possible because they don't want to catch the disease and die. So they ran, every man for himself. The pagan priests left the temples, ran out of the city. So when the sick went to the temples, there was nobody there to pray for them. Even the doctors fled the city. Every man for himself. You know what it reminds me of? Mario Kart 64 from the 90s. Awesome game. I remember when I got my Nintendo 64 with the controller, and my friends and I, we would gather around and you play this game. Do you remember the gameplay? Or if you don't, what would happen? You're racing against each other and you have all these weapons that you use to try to knock each other out of the way so you can win the race. You've got the turtle shells that are like missiles. You've got traps like banana peels that you're dropping, cause people to spin out of control. Mushrooms that you eat that make you go faster. Don't do that, kids. Not good. Stars that made you invincible, and you could ram people off the road and so forth. It was every man for himself. You're trying to do whatever it takes, knock people out of your way so that you can win the race, which is kind of a fair reflection on our world most of the time. I mean, don't we kind of see a world around us that's constantly trying to run over us and we're trying to run over other people and get a promotion over each other, no matter the cost, no matter who's destroyed along the way. It's the way the world works, every man for himself. So when that plague hit the Roman Empire, same thing, every man for himself. And if they had turtle shells and banana peels to use on each other, I'm sure they would have. Every man for himself, except the Christians. It's documented that the Christians stayed back in the cities, cared for the sick, brought them into their homes, covered them with blankets, fed them soup, gave them water, which dramatically helped with dehydration, and prayed for them. And then a lot of the Christians caught the disease themselves, and many of them died. That's what the Christians did. Which maybe that sounds like a total waste of life to you, just staying back and catching the disease or risking catching the disease. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you quarantine yourself and try to survive and run? But when you look at the results, the impact of what those Christians did, it saved the Roman Empire. Because here's what we know. If a person received food and water during that disease regularly, daily, it could strengthen a person who otherwise would have been too weak to survive. They might survive the disease. Plus, while many Christians did die after catching the disease, many more survived because of the care that they had received. And you know what happened when they survived? They developed immunity to the disease. And now they could move among the sick without any fear of catching the disease. It was miraculous. And all of this has led historians like Rodney Stark to conclude this. This reduced deaths by 2/3. 66% less people died because of the care of the Christians' communities. It is hard to underestimate the impact that this had on the growth of Christianity, because most of the people who survived were Christians, or they became Christians because of the care they had received. And even those who did not become Christians had a newfound respect for this cult that started over in Jerusalem that they just kind of had disdain for, but now they had seen the selfless acts of these people. Say, who are these people? These Christians, these followers of Jesus, because I've never seen anybody live this way. And then they get to know about their leader, Jesus. Who's this guy? And they find out, well, he's a guy who taught that you should sacrifice for others first. You put others first. And Jesus himself died to pay the price of the sin of the world, to pay for your sin and my sin. And you see that sort of example, and people started to say, I want to live like that guy. I want to live like Jesus. Meanwhile, what do you think that those who ran from the city contributed to the situation? You might be tempted to say nothing. That's not true. They actually spread the disease everywhere they went. Many other cities caused many, many more people to die. That's the havoc of an everyone for themselves mentality. It destroys people, destroys you. The guilt will destroy you, cripples society. Listen, if we all run around Mario Kart style, gunning for each other and trying to outrun each other and get promotions over each other, no matter the cost or who's destroyed along the way, you don't win. That is pretend. It is a video game with bad graphics from the 90s. In real life, you lose, other people lose, it hurts society, and I'll tell you what, you reap what you sow. Jesus said, whoever lives by the sword dies by the sword. If you live your life gunning for each other and outrunning each other, you will get to the end of your life and find yourself outrun. If you build your business on a cutthroat mentality, you will lose your business that way too. And if you live life ignoring people and treating them like they're beneath you, you will get to the end of your life and you will be ignored and you will be treated like you're beneath others. There's a better way, not just a more spiritual way, but a way that actually helps people, helps you, makes the world a better place. It's the way of Jesus. Saved people serve people. Jesus saved us, helped us, gave us what we needed even though we didn't deserve it. And so now we save and help and rescue and give others what they need, even if they don't deserve it. Sounds crazy. It's the way of Jesus. Serve everyone everywhere. So I hope that you'll take a next step and get connected in this church. I hope maybe I've inspired you today to go to Discover Compass or go to Serve Tour or to get plugged into Rooted or to check out Compass Academy. I want to leave you with these powerful words from our friend Peter. Peter, who said this, most important, this is the most important, continue to show deep love for each other. For love covers over a multitude of sins. Would you stand with me? I'd like for us to sing and to respond to God today in a time of